Podcast Club. I'm your host, Ella.
My name is Dasha.
And this is Ben Cohen today. Woo!
Ben Cohen was our teacher for film history class, and today is our fourth semester. Right now is our fourth semester, so it's like 2 semesters away from it. Two ago.
We had
semesters. Yeah, almost a year. Almost a year ago.
Time flies.
That's crazy. Well, thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
Yeah, we were
genuinely. It's a great thing. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, a lot of people actually were very excited to see you in our podcast.
Yeah,
Lord.
So it's kind of like,
I don't know about that.
Well, you see the comments.
Oh.
So check the comment. Write a comment. Check also the links below. We ask you to don't forget to donate because everything that's happening right now takes time, and we want to have something back. Yeah? No?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Am I phrasing it nicely enough?
Works for me.
Okay.
Happy to be here, and yes, I've missed teaching you.
Yeah, okay.
We always do a little game in the beginning. That brings us to a wonderful would you rather question.
Sure.
Would you rather teach only actors or only filmmakers?
Who teach history or teach screenwriting?
Well, you don't teach screenwriting for actors, so just
that's true. So just film history.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna I have to answer, right? And I'm gonna piss off a lot of my students here. I don't feel great about this. If it's just a blanket category, I'm gonna say actors. And I think the reason is that actors, if all else fails, bring energy.
That's so true.
If all else fails, when I came to class with y'all the first time, when I walked in the door, you guys were chanting, film history, film history, film history. And I was like, well, I don't know how I'm going to meet this energy, but I guess they got it. So, and literally chanting it. So, and my film students I adore, and I think they're a little bit more likely to go down the film history rabbit holes on their own. They're gonna learn this stuff one way or another, with or without me. I like to be there to facilitate it. I like to work with them. So I'm not trying to ostracize any of my students, but it is kind of fun watching it's almost like selling the actors on film history and learning it for the first time. Because it's not acting history. Acting history would be kind of a different thing, but it is like...
It's film. It's how do we get
how do pictures move?
Yeah.
And it is really... Y'all are very dramatic, too. So when I'm like, yes, and then they took the first images and it was on a metal sheet, y'all are like, what? On a metal... And I'm like, yes, and they look in a peephole in the village... And they would sell popcorn. You're like, they what? And it's like, you're not getting that from film students. Film students are like, yeah, we know. Talk about Denis Villeneuve. Yeah.
And we're like, who's Denis Villeneuve?
The guy who made Dune. The most popular movie in the Ella.
Okay. I tried to watch the first Dune. Well, I did watch the first Dune. And I didn't retain much of what happened.
That's okay.
And current
Have you watched
pop
it
culture
in the
theater? No,
I think that's the reason.
I'm not good about going to see things in the theater.
Yeah, it's literally the one thing I told you probably need to do to appreciate. Anyway, let's not. So you got another? Would you rather? Or?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I forgot the good one. Okay. Would you rather only watch movies or only watch TV series?
That is a fun one.
We can also answer that one.
You can answer that?
Well, we can answer about teaching, absolutely, yeah, but we can answer this one as well, to give you some time to think about it, if you want to.
Oh, sure, just, go for it.
Because I would absolutely watch more TV series.
You would watch more TV series?
I 100% agree with you.
Well, series, maybe not TV, but like series, like HBO, you know.
It's still a series, yeah.
Yeah, rather than movies.
I mean, so here's the thing. You're going to get a bigger variety of storytelling and visions, and you're going to see better, not necessarily, but usually better actors, bigger superstars. You're going to see Jack Nicholson if you watch movies. You're not going to get that if you go to TV. But if you're telling me I got to go the rest of my life with no Sopranos, I'm out. Like, I got to go TV because I'm not going a month without watching Sopranos. That's
like
a month?
6 months maybe, but like really, like every year. Last year I went and visited like where they shot everything. And I was appropriately dressed too. I had the bathrobe and everything. Like, my friends and I are serious. Like, I'm not missing
So you got to
Sopranos.
live in it.
Wow.
But see, that's my reason why I would rather watch TV too. Is it's like you get to be in a world for a longer period of time. Like
Sure.
with 2 hours of a movie,
Exactly.
it's just two hours.
But for y'all, it's more. I mean, if you're talking about just as a career path, it's
Oh.
certainly more sustainable to get that paycheck. But I just heard an interview with Rainn Wilson where he was like, "Yeah, I was trained in professional acting, and for the rest of my life, I'm Dwight."
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm not against it. I'm happy I did it, but also like, man, I would like to do something else with my body and my brain. And so
and
I
to
think
be able to
they're.
be seen as that.
But that's like
Interesting.
it's also like a 1% problem. Like, very, very rarely do you get to be Dwight.
And I think that I'm following him, and like I'm like looking what he's doing, the interviews and stuff. He does brings Dwight a lot by himself. Like, I mean, he loves being recognized by Dwight.
Of course.
I feel like it.
Of
So
course.
It's a great
it can
character
be
to
a
be
problem,
known
but
by.
at the same time, it doesn't look like you have
Mhm.
actually won. And I love him. I love Rainn Wilson.
Sure.
I love him, but like,
I see that though, and it's like for the cast of Friends, it's like you see them in any other thing. Even Jennifer Aniston is still.
Sure.
Rachel.
She's still Rachel.
And I've never watched Friends,
But
I know
she's
that she's
Rachel.
And I've never watched Friends. Never?
No.
I'm not going to give you a hard time because it doesn't matter. We're
Thank
all
you.
going to die one day. But, like, that's still kind of nuts.
All right.
All right.
You know what I did watch though?
Sure.
Like, I finished, and I really wanted to talk to you specifically about it.
To me specifically. Let's
To
go.
you Succession. Ben, I got obsessed with this show, and if I like, that's my goal in career. It is a series,
Sure.
but that's like the acting, the writing, the shooting, the presence, everything is just so great for me.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
One of my favorite things in the world is when students are like, I watched this thing and I thought of you and I wanted to talk to you about
Yeah.
it, because the student talks to me almost like I made the thing. And then I get to feel all proud, and I'm like, "Oh, you watch Succession? You're welcome." As if I had anything to do with it. Like,
You did have to. You
but I had nothing to
introduced
do
me.
with. Yes.
Yeah, you introduced me to it.
But it's not like this was some like obscure B-side album from 1981. Like, this is the most popular show in the world that I told you to watch. But
that's
like, yes.
but that's the thing. I wouldn't watch it because, again, about teaching. You teach very like engaging. You engage people a lot. So like, I would trust your opinion and I would come for advice. And then when you say in Succession, I'm like, whatever, I'll watch Succession. And you said like it's gonna
Whatever. Fine.
I'm gonna spend my time on that. And like you said something that is gonna be hard for like few first episodes.
Sure.
It wasn't hard for me, and I fall immediately for it. I know, yeah.
So I couldn't. The first like 5 episodes, I had to get through.
Mhm.
But I think it was I don't want to spoil
It was
spoilers.
It's the
party.
party.
There's a party.
Everyone says it's the party episode.
Well, it came together to me for why they had to set up
Season 1 where
for
they go
the
downstairs and. I
They
don't
go
know what
downstairs.
rating this podcast has, but it's an adult party they go to. She watched it so fast she doesn't
For
remember.
me,
Okay,
there was a specific moment.
Yeah.
It was the slap,
sure.
and it all came together for me for
What
how
the
they
fuck
needed
you
to
talking
build that world. Like they couldn't. Yeah, it's an incredible show. I'm only in season 2 so far. I haven't made it on to season 3 yet
Great.
because HBO doesn't.
I
have it,
actually
but-
think you did because we like started watching third season together.
Yeah, but I have to start over again
Yeah.
with season 3.
No, absolutely.
Fantastic show though, and
Again, you're welcome. I'm proud that I single-handedly wrote and directed it. But yes, no, it rules and it's great, and I'm always happy when students are able to watch what I think rules. And it's like,
And agree
again,
with
I'm
that?
not in a minority, but yeah, it's like, of course, it's a great feeling. Like, I stand in front of you and I say, all right, we're not going to say our opinions about stuff,
Yeah.
but also this is good. Go watch it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
great.
But that's why I think I was able, like, if you weren't the one, and if I wasn't in that class environment, I wouldn't have stuck with those episodes. But because I was, like, while I was watching it, analyzing the choices that they were making, I could at least appreciate it for that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Also changed my life of how I watch things, your class, in terms of analyzing
Okay.
everything. Because now I feel lucky. I'm able to turn it off. Like, I'm able to turn it off and just sit back and enjoy. Still,
Sure.
I'm sure one day that'll go away.
No, it won't. It won't. You'll. No. I mean, you will be able to watch
Cool.
things with magic.
That's
like,
how you feel about Sopranos? Like, you just watch it with...
No.
You still analyze
No,
it?
because Sopranos, I kind of have the, like, it's kind of like the magician learning the magic trick. Like, I watch it and I see a new thing every time and I get excited.
Oh.
You watch it from a different perspective, but, like, yeah, if I watch, like, E.T., I'm not necessarily looking at that. Or
Yeah.
even, like, I don't know, what did I watch recently that I was so excited?
Wonka?
No.
Madam Web?
I missed Wonka and Adam Webb, sorry.
Yeah.
No, but like even like a Scorsese movie, I will force myself not to
Killers of the
analyze.
Flower Moon.
Yeah, I will force myself not to analyze the first watch. The second watch I will,
Oh.
but the first watch I'll just go, nope, let it be.
Let
Let
it
it
be.
wash over. Like let me feel it. Let me go through it. And I kind of do that with Wes Anderson too. Like I'm not like I get a little bit, but I'm not usually like, oh, he chose these colors here. Oh my God, he did this. I'm just like, let me vibe. And then after I'll watch it again, and then I'll go, okay, here's the pieces.
Here's how he made me vibe.
Kind
What
of.
is your conscious response to it? Like, okay, when you mentioned Wes Anderson,
Sure.
you look at, like, you're watching his movies and he uses color, so you know subconscious or like whatever somewhere you know that these colors are used for this, but when you're trying just to take it in,
Mhm.
how do you feel the energy of the movie? Like, I don't know how to. I don't know.
I
how
understand.
to
I do know. I do understand what you're saying, and I think it's not. Oh God, I don't think I like turn off the like. Oh, he's using a wide angle lens, and there goes a dolly shot, or here's a steady cam. I don't think I turn that off, but I think I just sort of acknowledge it faster and then don't care. I'm just like, oh, okay, here's a wide angle lens, here's dolly shot, and great. That's what I care about is Jason Schwartzman feeling something in this moment, and then
Okay.
I just let the actors do their job.
Okay, so
and
I-
that's a big
yeah.
part. The actors should make you forget, kind of.
So that's kind of what we are. Okay, I'm on stage when I'm on a level that I'm like watching something and I'm consciously analyzing it. For you, it's already subconsciously and you're consciously trying to take it in.
Oh God, I don't know. I need to talk about this with my therapist, but like, maybe, yeah, maybe. I mean, I do think when you're in school, you're learning the language so
Yeah.
much, and I still am learning the language. And also, let's not forget, it's that great thing that my teacher, Greg Smith, used to always say, and he was actually talking about David Bordwell, but it's movies teach you how to watch them. So yes, I look at a movie and I go, there's a lot of red in this scene, but that doesn't mean that it has to be Technicolor 1960s color theory red. It doesn't have to be, okay, now it's desire and flames and burning passion. It could be like, well, how is this movie asking me to look at red? And then I meet the movie where it is. And some movies encourage you to not look at the choices, and some movies encourage you to look at the choices aggressively. And I will say one of the quickest ways to make any audience less analytical, and maybe why I kind of like these movies sometimes, is movies with a sense of humor. Not necessarily we all love a good comedy, like we all love comedy, but like one thing I love about Wes Anderson is like he has the prestige now of like any of those guys, of like Kurosawa, of Scorsese, of Coppola, of Agnes Varda, whatever. But like all his shit is funny, and I just kind of like I enjoy and I laugh, and then the next time I'm like, okay, cool. Now let me look at this a little bit more.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, I agree with you. Maybe when it's like dramatic, heavily dramatic, over dramatic, it's sometimes like, okay, maybe your body and like your brain is like, I want to kind of distance myself, so I'm gonna look at it from technical stuff. Isn't
At
it?
times, I mean,
Or is it just bad acting? Like visibly bad shooting of writing?
No, visibly bad acting will get me, yeah, but then it's kind of fun at that point. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is a fascinating thing to think about, like what allows you to fully turn your brain off and just enjoy or appreciate what's in front of you, and then also how much of it is fun because you're analyzing it. And like, I think about that when I go to, you know what I mean?
I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
The fact that it's like once I've learned the language, now
Yeah.
that I can see, like, however you said maybe they're using a red, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean love or anger or,
Sure.
or the stereotypical things of what red is. Once you learn the thing, you can learn how to break the thing, and you can see how other people are breaking the thing too.
Totally.
And that is sometimes more fun than watching a movie.
It can be. And then
And then
well, but and then you get to your echo chamber problem when it's just a whole bunch of people that like a whole bunch of people that know film are just talking to each other on Letterboxd or Twitter, and then it's just breaking the thing on the thing on the thing on the thing, and then you go, you know what? If Scorsese was here right now, he would go, everybody, shut up. The only thing that matters is that the audience feels anything.
Yeah, and
that's it.
The mass
Nothing else
population
matters.
of the audience is not filmmakers studying
No.
the thing. So,
But
when we get to a point,
but
does
it
it
is always a
become
line you got to walk between,
Mhm.
film knowledge and literacy. It's just like we spend so many years of our lives in middle school and high school learning how to read books, and then so many years of our lives watching TV and film, and so few years learning how to watch TV and film. Does that make sense? So I truly think my class would not hit y'all in a special way if y'all were learning film like you would literature in high school. But I think because I'm the first one usually that's like, hey, you know, the movie's doing stuff. You know that like there's recurring motifs and themes and the camera is making choices. Suddenly
it opens us to the
it hits,
possibility.
Yeah.
But I'm talking a lot about this podcast series about factory and how to not become factory. So I agree. If Scorsese would like listen to how we analyze something, wouldn't it become a product instead of an art? You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because Scorsese was a film teacher.
Okay.
And Scorsese is famously a film historian and preservationist and does documentaries and I know, and is quite a nerd himself. So I think Scorsese would love nerding out on theory with people, but he would get frustrated if at no point people acknowledged the only thing that, not the only thing, but the main thing that matters is the feeling. That if you don't acknowledge that, end of the day, it's acting and story that's driving this, the other stuff is kind of not necessarily supporting it, but it is supporting it.
Yeah.
Then and again, I don't want to put words in his mouth. He's not here. I don't know, but if you hear him talk, he is very cerebral, very analytical, and he really knows his film history and his language. But what makes him and so many greats effective is that ability to cut straight to emotion.
Interesting.
So but this, what you were saying, product versus art. Where we are now, there's such a mass amount of things coming out all of the time, and like the ability to watch, so you can just turn on anything at any time.
Sure.
So where are we in terms of this not being art anymore? Like, obviously all of us here are so badly are here because we want to be artists, but when does it get to a point where it's like, if I'm offered a gig and the money's great but the story is meh, I'm probably still gonna take the thing. And, well, I don't know about future, but
no, you
should.
You should.
Because it's money.
You should take the thing. Brad Pitt was in Mentos commercials, right? Like, you should take the thing. Again, I don't know how old the audience is here, but Wes Craven literally directed porn before he did horror. Like, you always take the job. I know, you always take the job, right? The goal is that you're able to find the editors, the publishers, the producers, the distributors, and the critics that support you. Because, there have been times when Scorsese's movies have bombed. Wes Anderson's first movie bombed big time, and they had the right producers and the right critics sort of saying, no, everyone, this is good. We should give this another chance, and then they were able to keep moving. So your question, though, was interesting. It's, at what point is it not art? And that, not to get too like unreasonably, undesirably and pretentiously philosophical, but like, I say this to y'all, that art only exists when it meets the eyes of the viewer, right? The artist can put it out, and then the artist puts it back in. They're their own eyes, but the audience is part of the equation. So art is no longer art, I guess, when we no longer deem it to be art. So I have a hard time being pessimistic. I will say that. We all have reason to be pessimistic, but in terms of the arts, like, I don't know. I saw like at least 10, probably 14 movies that ruled last year. I saw 10 TV shows that were incredible. I listened to at least 7, maybe 10 albums that ruled, none of them more than Olivia Rodrigo, but they were all great. And also, what I tell my screenwriting students a lot is, everyone has their own taste, everyone has the thing that they like. I've known for a long time that the thing I like more than anything in the world, it's very rare, but it's when someone who I think is an experimental weirdo like someone who should be hanging out in some like basement in Bushwick 10 years ago or whatever, like some unconscionable weirdo, and they do a pop song. So like David Bowie, Prince, Jimi Hendrix, Outkast, like that is what I love. And again, going back to the two guys we mentioned before, that's what I love about Scorsese and Wes Anderson, is like these guys are at the top of their craft, and if they wanted to, they could do the weirdest movies in the world, but they're like, no, we'll make it so people can understand this. And I think that's awesome. So I have a hard time being too pessimistic by saying that there's a lot of stuff out there, so it's all mass marketing. It's always been that way.
Yeah, and
It's
that's
always,
what I was going to ask too, like in terms of circular,
Sure.
cyclical things, like wild to me, by the way, movies have been around for barely over a century. Still, I can't.
So young.
That's
so young.
That's insane.
Yeah, yeah.
And the
Yeah.
amount of cyclical moments there have been okay. Film history. Here we go. Something happened where they were distributing, the same people owned the distributors
yes. Vertical integration. Supreme Court struck it down. You can't you can't own the movie, the distributing rights, the theater, all of it at once. It's a monopoly.
Just like monopoly.
And is that not what's now happening? Though?
Well, this
and
was a question.
What the strike was about.
It is a little bit what the strike was about, and this is something I actually posed to your class when we were talking, because I think one of you two maybe even was the one, I'm not sure, but I think one of you were like, isn't this kind of what Netflix is doing? And I was like, yeah, it kind of is. And like this is kind of why people are upset right now. So, my shout out to my father who once told me, people are people, the toys just change. And film history is like any art history. It's gonna change as the toys change, and Netflix is a new toy. And at first it became this, it was like, oh my god, I can DVDs to my house, and oh my god, streaming directly, and oh my god, original programming, and oh my god, they're giving Alfonso Cuarón and Scorsese free money or open budgets, whatever. And then it kind of cannibalizes itself, and it's not regulated, and it happens so fast that before we can blink, cable is gone, and we're spending twice as much for less. And so then you just have to go, okay, so what's next?
It's kind of comforting, though. So it really is, because it's
exhausting
like, no matter
sometimes, but comforting
exhausting
too.
always, but
Yeah.
comforting to know that that's just humans.
Life,
that's just
yeah.
human nature. We read Marat Sade. Am I saying that right? Marat Sade a couple weeks ago, and like that concept has really been sticking with me. That it's like we move in circles, and it's okay. And we can't trying to force ourselves out of that is
Yeah, I agree.
Well, hard agree, but also like as a history teacher, I also have to like be like, well, we move in circles, which means the worst things that are happening will pass and we will figure something out, but that doesn't happen passively. You don't just wait. Like the answer to whatever is going to like bring film into the 22nd century when we get there, it's not going to be someone will figure it out. It's like, no, y'all will figure it out, we will figure it out. It's the answer to, we talk a lot in film history about global conflicts. It's like, yeah, there'll be another war and then we'll get over it. It's like, no, someone has to fight the war. Like, we have to win the war, we have to stop it. So in history, we really want to look at like, how do we stop the slow motion car wreck from happening if we already know that it's happened before? Does that make sense? So if we know that Netflix is kind of using that model that was broken up by the Supreme Court, we can go, oh yeah, it'll be fine, it'll work itself out, but we really should go, we should stop it now though, because we already know this doesn't work, and we already know that this is going to be bad.
Heard.
Heard. It's wild though, because you're right. I mean, it's in our hands to do it, and the comforting does a little bit. I felt when I was saying that, it also is a little like, okay, I'll take a back seat then, and I don't want to, but it's stressful.
No, but I think the back seat. You take a back seat.
Yeah.
You don't have to solve the world's problems. You don't have to solve the film industry's problems, but you do.
You want to be a part of it.
You want to be on the right side when those debates happen. You wanna know from history what can work and what what the context
Mm-hmm.
history provides us, and we want to know, that like maybe it's not great if Congress starts, naming names and demonically looking for our enemies within Hollywood. Maybe it's not great if we aggressively pump children filled with steroids and cigarettes. Like, we're gonna have another Judy Garland. Like, you just go, well, what can I do that's in front of me? And you can just be a good person on set. When your unions have union votes, when SAG votes, you vote the way that it matters. Like, that's what you do.
I want to ask you about what you've done in your career. 'Cause we were just talking about, like, you had web series that
Sure.
we know about.
It's so funny. I'm talking this big game. Yeah, I've got some really silly web series. Go ahead.
You do? Silly? Why silly?
I've done comedy for many
Well,
years. in my
improv,
life.
right?
Yeah, improv, but also sketch comedy, also online stuff. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I've got a lot of silly stuff to my name.
Okay.
Sorry,
No,
I just got one. How did you find that you wanted to be in this industry? Like, what did you want to go down the improv being?
No,
in front
I was in film.
side?
I was in film before I was in improv,
Okay.
and I was actually working here even before I was in improv. But once I was in improv, I was in for a very, very long time. I don't know. I never have a great answer for this question. It's like, what, I dressed up as Charlie Chaplin for Hero Day in 7th grade. Like, my father.
I was just curious.
No, that's a real thing I say. Like, my father got wicked sick when I was 12, and I cheered him up by playing Airplane and Monty Python. Like, I guess. But I think what it really is when I was 15, 16, I started having very depressive thoughts and really struggling with an outlet. And I was, for whatever reason, too scared to write it in a journal. So I started writing short stories that were thinly veiled stories of my life, and I found it deeply therapeutic. And then, of course, I was seeking whatever validation that I could find. So I went straight to my teachers, and I had really, it was 2 or 3 teachers specifically. It's funny. I was talking to one of them, actually. I'm still in touch with all of them, and I was talking to one of them just last week. But Mr. Maxfield, Miss Duncan, and Miss Cassell, my English teacher, biology teacher, and my creative writing and English teacher. And they would read it, and they would say, "Good, turn it into a play now," or "Good, go study in your video production class." And I don't know, it just sort of clicked eventually, and
Cool.
I decided that film would be the path I would go. And it's funny because I studied film in college. I love film. I watch film. I pay attention to film. But I've worked in theater and in improv and sketch, and I've done graphic novels, and now my agent wants me to do a novel. So I don't know, man. I really
so you're
don't.
writing. You
Yeah.
are a writer.
Writer is always number one for me, yeah.
Okay.
Not that I enjoy it, but I am a writer.
Will,
That's funny.
You taught us to write a lot in your class, by the way. And now
And
I'm
how to
writing.
just write. Yeah.
And now, like, we're doing an accent for film class. We're reading a book, and then we have to, like, write what we learned from it.
Sure.
And I got, like, a challenge that I was writing perfectly, analyzing how you taught us, you know? And the teacher was like, I actually want to know your opinion. Oh, okay.
I would actually like to know if you liked this.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, I did.
No, Ben
That's
programmed us to be an analytical robot.
It's an important thing to learn how to separate, though, your opinions from what something is.
Yeah.
It's important.
Well, and for context, for your viewers or your listeners that might not know, and I learned it this way as well, but a lot of film history and film aesthetic classes, we teach you to write analytically, not necessarily argumentatively, and not reviews. And that's the big one, is that we don't want you writing, I liked it because, I didn't like it because. We want you just going, all right, this film seems to be about regret. What are all the decisions that sort of outline regret? What are all the camera angles? What are all the editing pieces? How can we get in the brain of the character and reinforce this idea?
Can I ask why, though, we don't learn how to write our opinions and, like, why I liked it? Because it's still, I have to justify
Sure.
why I liked it.
First off, I don't think, and this is just me, I don't think a college student, I'm speaking of when I was a college student, I don't think a college student struggles to figure out if they like something or not.
Okay.
I think we're all kind of trained to have those gut opinions and just be like, yeah, I liked it, and also come up with that opinion 10 minutes into a movie, which is also kind of a struggle, because what if the movie's slow, and what if the movie picks up later, what if the movie needs to only be understood within the context of when it came out. So I think it's important to analyze as opposed to review, so that you can lift up your, it's kind of like another form of language skill. Like I said, movies teach you how to watch them. So you're just sort of saying, like, what techniques are being used here? It's like, it doesn't really matter if you like Jimi Hendrix or not. I want to figure out, how did he get the guitar to go from this note to this note, and how did he do it so fast? It doesn't matter if Miles Davis, 70s jazz sounds like noise to most of us. I still want to figure out why it's important. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And again, I think, like, there are classes of, like, how to write a review, and that is an important one, but we just don't really have a ton of that here. At least not through me, anyway.
It's a cool build, because when you learn how to analyze first, and then learn how to analyze to support your opinion, which is, I think, kind of like what critical thinking is helping teach. It then, like, the thing after that is, how do I take all those things and now make something that I like?
Yeah.
And that I like what I'm doing. Yeah, that sounds really simple, but it's kind of hard to know if I like what I've done.
No, it's extremely hard. Very few people like what they've done. We all love what we're doing when we have the idea. I have this great idea. I'm going to do this thing. It's going to be awesome. Very rarely do you finish it and go,
That's why, though. It's so weird.
It's brutal, because if you did have that feeling where you were just like, nailed it, I think you would be an egomaniac. I think that would be very unhealthy.
We talked about competitive, and that this industry is very, very competitive, and like I've heard recently that this industry is also very toxic. But isn't it because we're just toxic to ourselves, and like we're always kind of like, do you want to be the best or do you want to be the one, And like you're like between.
I have a lot of opinions here. And I don't know if you want to go this direction, so I'll keep it short. This industry is toxic. Most industries are, because people are people.
Yeah.
This industry can be more toxic because we have less safeguards. We have the simple way of putting it is, like, we don't always have the human resources on a film set that you need. We don't always, we encourage weird, insane behavior. Like, oh my God, Tom Cruise literally did his own stunts, and he was hanging on the plane. And then it's like, can you believe Tom Cruise also is like a little bit out there? And it's like, yeah, I can. He was just on the plane. Like, we encourage the weird behavior, and then we also wonder why there's consequence.
Exactly.
Which I don't think is good.
Yeah, I don't think it's good.
I also think that that everyone should kind of rein it in a little. Which is weird, because I love Jimi Hendrix and rock and roll and Prince and Bowie and all that stuff.
I don't think we should reel it in. I think we just have to accept that there's going to be a consequence to those things, and we are allowed to talk about the consequence and deal with that however we need to deal with that. But like,
I agree.
For me, it's a worth it.
I agree. Let me rephrase. I would rather someone be as out there on stage and in their execution as possible. Like, who knows, maybe someone in the comments will get me for this, but through rumor, I heard many times in my career that Wes Craven was one of the nicest guys in the world. And that always gave me a lot of, like, calm, because I'm like, the guy who made Scream, the guy who made Nightmare on Elm Street, the guy who made his whole career off of dramatizing murder and blood and guts and gore, is like sweet and kind and polite. And it's like, yes, he knew where to put the weird, and he didn't throw that toxicity on other people. Whereas, I'm not going to name names, but there are filmmakers, mainstream rom-com, mainstream Oscar bait filmmakers that are just awful to people, and their movies are kind of rosy and nice. And so that I want to rein in. I don't think that sort of level of toxic genius should be really acceptable.
And I agree with that. That, like, I feel like we don't know where's the line between being toxic to people, being toxic to ourselves. So, like, we are between black and white all the time. I have to be, like, either very critique to myself, or I have to just support myself because no one else will?
Sure. I mean, I will say that it's not black and white, and you know that. And I think it's not a line. I think we talk a lot about lines in this business. Like, where's the line? How do you know where the line is? It's like, it's not usually a line. It's usually a giant neutral zone. It's like usually a big old gray zone where like people can make mistakes, then people can go back. And it's like, things are rarely like one or the other. So, you know, you should be critical to your work, but not necessarily, and you should be critical of your choices, but you shouldn't be critical to yourself, to your existence, and you shouldn't be critical of the person that didn't know what you know now, because you should be proud you learned the thing.
Absolutely agree.
Now, easier said than done. Again, I'm gonna end up in therapy saying like what you're saying, and it'll be a problem. But like, it's just knowing that lifelong, you're gonna be constantly going like, I want to make the thing. It's gonna be awesome. I kind of hate it, and then just sort of accepting. Well, you know what? Like, most people don't love what they do when they're done with it, and it's also a little bit weird if you love it too much.
Yeah.
Even Spielberg,
Exactly.
Spielberg said in an interview, and maybe he was just being humble, but he said E.T. is about the only movie that he feels like, no, I nailed it. Like, that's kind of like the only one. He's like, not good.
And because if everything was perfect, if everything was awesome all the time, we wouldn't. There's enjoyment.
We wouldn't grow
growth
also,
for
right?
it. Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't grow, but also we wouldn't allow ourselves to be the age that we were when we created the art, right? Like, all you are is the person that you are when you are in that moment and you make the art. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's just hard to actually get around. It's like I can't blame myself for not knowing what I don't know.
yeah.
And it's like, and I don't know something until I know something, and there's nothing I can do about that.
I had a teacher who once said being a student specifically at y'all's development stage is tricky because it's, she referred to it as conscious incompetence, where you watch the movie and you go, I know how to do it right. You watch a great performance, right? You watch Shirley MacLaine or Jack Lemmon or Denzel, whatever, and you go, I know, they're doing it. I see how they're doing it. Why can't I do it? And it's like, because you're not there yet.
And I can map out the steps of how to do it, but I can't do it.
Well, it's just because you're not there yet.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you won't be, and it doesn't mean you can't be. It just means you're not, and that's tricky.
We also talked, it was a conversation that you don't have to compare yourself with anyone right now, with any like student, like if you're doing right job or not, because like I was bringing the example from Succession. Kieran Culkin, am I pronouncing his name right?
Yeah, Kieran.
And Jeremy Strong have absolutely different approaches to one thing, but is one more successful than the other, or is one better than the other? I don't think so. I think they're very just different, and I don't think it's a good to compare two people who are already there, you know?
Sure.
But we still do it here right now with ourselves. So like, why would we do it? We are different people with very different paths and like ways to learn and explore. So there's common competition and toxic. It's good to keep yourself accountable.
Yep.
But I'm gonna repeat it, but no one else will support you as much as you could support yourself, you know?
Oh man, that's humbling. I gotta support myself more. I gotta sit up straight. No, I think that's true, and again, I think some healthy competition is good. But again, it's the word healthy. Like,
yeah, because where's the line again, right? As
well,
you said.
but this is what I think, and I tell. Sorry, I keep making points. I tell students this as often as I can, which is like a healthy group or cohort or class, it kind of has to have a couple folks that other people are jealous of. You kind of have to have people that you go, oh shit, I didn't know it could be this good. Oh, I need to step up my game. I need to like, oh, they're showing up on time.
Up, right?
Yeah, and that's healthy. What's unhealthy is the like, I'm not good enough. I'm never good enough. It's never going to be good enough. That is not healthy. But it is good to sort of be like, oh, they're on time, and look at what they're doing.
Yeah.
Look how professional they are, and they're not complaining when I'm complaining. Oh, there are habits here I can grow from, and maybe that's not jealousy. Maybe that's just learning. But I I do think that I've been around people before in comedy and in teaching here and other places where like I see their game, and I'm like, oh, I got to step it up a little bit.
I think it's super healthy to have that.
Yeah.
No, I also
agree with
though
that.
I
agree
like
with that,
the
yeah.
way that I I'm trying to learn to not function anymore is like I need to support myself because I always go down the path of, oh, they're doing a cool thing, I'm not good enough.
I'm failing because they're
And
doing
Right.
yeah, somebody else's failures or somebody else's successes are not my failures, and I'm trying to nail that in my head. But
It's I'm not joking. I literally wrote a graphic novel about this, and it is a real feeling that everyone has in every, I don't want to say every career, but definitely in competitive careers that you're outwardly judged by. When you're judged by, like when you could have a conversation with people that are like, oh, what are you doing? You're like, oh, I'm a writer. It's like, oh, would I have read anything? You're like, okay, it's not really how it works.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you're an actor. Have I seen you on anything? It's like, yeah, I was on a Cialis commercial. And it's like, okay, that's not really helpful, but it is, we absorb that.
yeah,
You know?
whether we like
it or not. And
I
so-
almost absorb it more than the like an incredibly nice compliment or something, because there's some weight to like a stranger having like just a flat out bold opinion in my face about
Sure.
something, versus like somebody that I know really well that's probably gonna try to spin something to make me feel better. Like it's weird, but I'm already going into I'm already second guessing why they would be supporting me in the first place, because they I don't know, I'm going down a weird rabbit hole there. Keep talking.
But that's real. It's just it is a process and it takes time, but eventually you and I struggle with this myself, but you do have to kind of go, they didn't have to compliment me. And even like if they did, I don't know, it's kind of, you do have the power to absorb it, and it's a very difficult thing to learn, but eventually you kind of have to say thank you. And not qualify, and not be like, oh, well, I was tired. I mean, like, no, I was better the other night, or like whatever. Like, this happens with teaching, and I love teaching. I know that it's a good time for me, and I really appreciate the time I get to spend with y'all. But like for years, if a student came up to me and was like, that class was amazing, or like that was so great, I would be like, oh no, I mean, you get out of here. No, I mean, that's it. You guys make the class. And now I'm like, thank you. And it's like still a process, but I'm like, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah,
but it's hard because we're in an industry too where, like we were saying, with the audience is going to be mostly made up of people that aren't analyzing. It's like that stranger coming up to me and having just that one opinion is like the mass of people that I'm going to end up wanting to sell to. Balance is interesting with that.
It's tricky. Go ahead.
With writing,
Sure.
all of these things you've said, okay, I've written a graphic novel or something about that.
Sure.
How?
Where can we find this?
Where do you
first of all,
how do you find the thing that you want to talk about and then apply it to like structure and, okay, this is a proven formula, and yeah, that goes back to once you learn a language well enough, then you know how to break it in a helpful way. But like when I'm like sitting in my bed at like 2 a.m. and I'm like writing on my little notes app, like those, I think that is some of my favorite writing of my own. And so, but then I come to a class and I have an outline that I should follow, and I'm not able to put that artistic side of that 2 a.m. Ella that I love into the...
Sure.
Yeah. I think you see what I mean.
I do, because I've been there, and there are different forms that I feel more free in. Like when I am writing prose, I do kind of just sit down and let it go, and I will eventually, if it has to be a longer piece, I'll outline it then, but like I'll just like let that rip. But for a graphic novel, which is a very like cinematic form, or for a feature or a pilot, I do have to structure it quite a lot. Let me start with the first part of the question, for what it's worth, and also to qualify this for people, not that after all that talk about qualifying, but like I teach much more than I publish. I am nowhere near as far as I am going to be in my career. I have done quite a bit, but not as much as I will do or would have liked to have done. Having said that, I do kind of find those moments of what am I going to write about with flat out like, okay, if a feature film or a novel is like your biggest life decisions, your biggest life transformations, what does that look like for me or the people I love? If it's how do you make something fresh and exciting, it's, well, what's the genre I like, or what are the movies that I like? What did they used to do? And what have they what did they never do? So it's kind of like, well, movies used to have more like weird teen angst and ghoulish drama. Boom, now you have Stranger Things. And it's like, well, movies never allow the woman in the horror movie to like be her own person. Boom, Scream. That is one way to do it. For me, I do just like to say, like, all right, here's some really tough things that I've been through. How can I put that in the genres that are exciting to me? And then structurally, you kind of, it's different for everyone, but I just say, like, all right, what sucks about this character? Or if I'm using myself, what sucked about me at this time? And then I go, now what lesson do they need to learn? How are they going to change by the end? And then you just map your structure onto that. And it's not a formula, it's a structure. You're looking for character arc, you're looking for progress, you're looking for transformation. Within that, there's so much room to play and grow. And I think, I talk about this a lot in classes, like what is structure versus formula? When am I being a product versus art? Really, you shouldn't have any structure, blah, blah, blah. But it just kind of comes down to stories have a beginning, middle, and an end. Characters change. Now what? And it's like, if you just accept that, like, you just need to have those two things, like beginning, middle, end, and arc, then you really can play as much as you want. It's the same thing with a song, not to keep invoking the gods, but like Bowie and Hendrix said, you got a chorus, you got a verse, you got a solo, then what, right? Every song's going to do those three things, but look at all the stuff we can play with still.
I find, okay, wait, structure versus formula. I am visioning formula as like math. Has to be, there's no other way it works out. Structure has more room in it. And I like thinking about it like that. I just, anytime I've tried to do okay, for your class, the very first paper that I ever wrote was my favorite one. Because I thought I didn't have these like weird construed ideas that I made up about what you wanted to see or what my classmates were going to write about or what's the right thing. And so it's just a learning process, I guess, but like, how do I get to that next step of like allowing the work to just speak for itself? And I don't know, I feel like a lot of the things I've said are coming down to like my mental processes of
your mental state.
This.
Yeah.
So that's Ella, weird. And I'm sorry. And
no, stop it. I will borrow from a much better artist. I will tell you what Alfonso Cuarón did with Roma. Alfonso Cuarón famously is friends with Guillermo del Toro, Alejandro González Iñárritu, and he would they would send each other scripts for years. So they would send each other the script to Gravity, to Birdman, to whatever. And Roma, he wanted to feel kind of like when he was a younger artist, and he wanted to have nostalgia, and he wanted it to be more loose and more free. So he wrote a first draft, and he filmed a first draft. No edits, and he didn't send it to his friends. And he said the only reason he felt confident in that was because he had spent 20 years learning structure. In other words, the structure was learned in the front of the head and it lives in the back of the head. And once you kind of go through that process, you'll go right back to being that person at the beginning that was like, I love what I'm writing, but now you'll have 100 more skills and tools than you had before. And it's an exhausting process to go through. By the way, he shot the movie and he only gave this is horrible, he only gave the actors the pages that they were in about 2 hours before they were doing it. Most of them were non-actors. One of them was a professional, and he changed every take how he wanted him to do it, and nobody on the crew had the script. The only person that had the script was the Netflix producer who didn't speak Spanish. And Alfonso Cuarón was the camera operator and cinematographer himself.
What's the project?
Roma.
Oh, Roma? That one?
Yes.
1960 or something?
No. That's Fellini. Roma from just a few years ago, the black and white film that won all the Oscars,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
No, but there is a Roma from back in the day.
I was like,
And Fellini worked similar, actually. Fellini did all sorts of weird stuff. He used to record sound afterwards, record dialogue after, so he would play music on set so the actors would kind of sway and dance as they were performing. All sorts of weird techniques in history. Really, the question is just always like, who's going to trust me enough to give me money to let me do the weird thing? And that's
like Wes
half the
Anderson.
job.
Well, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's in the budget, but...
But again, he had the producer, he had the critics, he had the people that believed in him.
How do you get the critics?
Well, you make something that is great, and you focus on that first, and then you
Step
Step one, make something great,
Great.
and this is gonna sound silly, but like strong voice. When Wes Anderson came onto the scene, it was like, okay, who is this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a very clear vision, even though they were very young when they did it, and Owen Wilson and him just met it at school, like y'all are, and they scrappily got it together. But if you close your eyes and say, like, I picture a Wes Anderson film, like, you know it.
Yeah.
And that is often what makes for us for support.
I wish we could talk more and more about
I can hang. You want to do bonus features?
Absolutely, yeah.
Have we even gotten to half the topics you want to talk
No,
about?
never.
I'm
We
sorry.
never do.
No, but like it's we never do.
This one's on me. I was talking.
No, it's no. Please
That's
stop
the point.
it. I
Just to hear.
I learn every time so much, and I'm just so happy like to ask you questions.
And I also appreciate, like, a lot of what you say comes back down to, like, the actually doing of it. And it's nice because we're human beings too in an industry that is like, it's not, I don't know, it's not like finances, and it's not like these jobs. It's like our jobs are a part of our life and we can't help it. It's just in it. And so how do then we take care of ourselves too and give ourselves grace? And it's
episode 2.
Yeah, episode 2 coming soon.
But thank you so much.
Oh yeah, the thing that I said before we started filming, that this is one of the most incredible teachers we've ever had.
Stop.
No, I do have to just say, the engagement that you are able to get out of 15 people in a classroom who have their own lived experiences, and you're able to connect to every one of them, that's a superpower. That's a superpower. Hey,
and
just say thank you.
I'm thinking, I'm like, thank you. You can see how much I'm wrestling with it. But yes, thank you.
No, I
listen. As long as it's better than Rico, I don't care. Like, that's all that matters. As long as I
it
got
doesn't
him.
take much.
Low bar to clear. He's a friend.
Thank you so much. It was a really nice episode.
And just like that,
we will invite you again.
My pleasure. Anytime.
100%.
Yeah. Thank you so much for today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Donate.
Don't forget to
Appreciate
comment, share. We would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for staying with us today.
Oh yeah, we clap at the end.
Oh yeah.
We do a group
For who?
clap.
We just clap once for sound.
But also
okay.
for us.
Great.
1, 2, 3. Done.
That was clean and done.